Hello, everyone, and welcome to Political Paradigm. I am Terry Ikumi. Today, my guest is the Executive Governor of Ebonyi State, Mr. David Umahi. Welcome to Political Paradigm, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Terry. Good to be with you today.
Thanks for having me over. And let me begin by congratulating you on being the only governor from the Southeast to survive the tsunami and win election to the Senate. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful to God for that.
But was this the outcome you envisaged with regards to the 2023 general elections?
How do you mean? You mean the assessing the
elections generally?
The integrity of the election?
Absolutely.
Well, for me, I've been a party chairman for 5 years. I've been deputy governor, governor for almost 8 years. And I've run elections. And even before then, I had supported, politicians, being then a businessman, and when I put side by side, the past elections and this election of 2023, in all honesty, I must, say that INEC has done very, very well. And I can also say that, Nigeria has come of age to be able to conduct this kind of election. Don't mind that, sometimes we are bad losers. The moment you didn't win, then you castigate INEC. But I give a very high, excellent job, to the chairman of INEC and his team and all the recs. They have done excellently, very, very well.
When you say bad losers, are you referring to the PDP and Labour Party?
Well, all of us, we're politicians, including me. The moment you didn't win, then you have find a reason to castigate the election. But if you did win, then you were this. But I can tell you something that one of the factors going for Mr. President is honesty, because whether PDP loses or wins or APC and so on and so forth, he has always congratulated the winner. And so when I say some of us are bad losers, it doesn't go for all politicians. And I've just given you an example of a good, loser and winner.
But with regard to the outcome of this election, quite a number of politicians are surprised at how it played out. Were you surprised at how this played out, especially for your party, and also considering that the Labour Party pulled a surprise and won in your state?
Well, that's the more reason I say there is a very high level of integrity, of the election. Because in all honesty, I didn't give any chance, to Labour Party to, win any election in my state. Because what we have put on ground, when we come to that, is such that no any other political party should be able to win anything, not even councillorship election in Ebonyi State. And so I see the election or the votes of Labour Party as a kind of protest votes, against my party, against the PDP. That's the way I see it. So I was very surprised that, even in my family, there was conspiracy against me, and I didn't know, that they were going to vote for, Labour in the presidential election. But in other elections, it is APC because of what we've done, because of, the way we have carried on with the state. So it's very surprising. And it's very surprising that Mr. President could lose his state, at the presidential, election level. And Swaju could lose Lagos State, a man that is, given to the welfare of the people and is carried on, the Lagos people very well. So it's very surprising. So it brings a lot of surprises. So when people, question the integrity of the election, I feel so bad about it. You say the election was rigged, but nobody has been able to come up with figures to say this is how the election, was rigged, because you have the results from the polling units. Nobody has been able to come and say, hey, look at the results we got from polling units signed, by INEC. Look at the result that is published. Nobody's been able to say that. It's just to castigate, INEC. So I'm not, part of that. We also lost about, 4 House of Assembly seats in Ebonyi State, and of course 120. That will make me to castigate INEC. It's not the fault of INEC.
With regards to the evidence which you seek, I think that's why the courts exist. Well, let me ask you this question. Why do you think that your people voted for the Labour Party at the presidential election, but voted for the APC at the governorship election?
I've told you before now that is every vote in Ebonyi State for Labour Party is a protest vote at the presidential, election. Look, let me tell you that the religious leaders in my state, totally were, for the labor movement, and that's why I saw it as a kind of protest vote. It wasn't a vote for, His Excellency Obi as such. It wasn't, because you can see even the by-election that was, held yesterday, we won all the seats, won all the seats in Ebonyi State. So if it were isolated, elections, there is no any other party that win any other thing other than, the people's, opinion that, it should be His Excellency, P2B. And that's what, happened. So for me, I looked at it personally as a protest vote against the PDP, against the APC.
Is it a valid point that the people were protesting against the leadership at that level?
Well, I can tell you yes, because there is, seemingly hardship and challenges in Nigeria. But if you evaluate it very, very well, you find out that it's, a thing of, entire, world. There have been a lot of, global economic crisis. In administration from 2015, we've suffered about 3 recessions. We survived it. We suffered COVID. We survived it. We suffered cashless policy. Survived it. All these things, were challenges targeted against the masses, not by anybody, but they came naturally, And so look at the Ukraine war. So all these things added to, a crisis, in leadership and, people's loss of confidence in leadership. But nothing you can do. Look at Ghana, they are going through their own challenges. So leadership, yes, but the led also, yes. And so the global economic, problems. So this is the way I look at it.
Before we talk about your ambition to be president of the Senate, let me quickly ask you this question. You faced some challenges since joining the APC from the PDP, but how has it been governing a state that has always been PDP?
Well, for me, at the beginning, it was quite challenging, because some of the leaders of the state, even though I consulted them, but along the line they betrayed me. They said, no, we will not leave PDP. But at the time of, consulting with Mr. President about my moving to APC, we discussed and they agreed that we could move, Now, the National Assembly members, I had a meeting with all of them, in exception of Senator Oba, at the residence of Dr. Sam Umahi. And I requested them, to air their opinion one after the other, about going into APC. And every one of them spoke, and they gave, approval that I should go ahead and move, that they would join me to move. It was only Dr. Sam, Umahi that said, he needed to pray about it. Only him. But every other person, in exception of Senator Oba, was not there, was in agreement. But when I moved, they made a U-turn and started castigating me, some of them. Unfortunately, only one survived the onslaught, None of them came back. None of them was re-elected. And then for the House of Assembly, I think about 8 of them, did not move with me. They stayed back, even though we agreed to move. And 8 of them, none of them survived, They couldn't win election, So, for me, it's not about party. It's about, the leader, of government, what you have done for the people, your heartbeat for the people. So it's not about the party. Some people argue, though, Ebonyi State is predominantly PDP, And so PDP was not the one that, has put up this infrastructure. It was conceived by, somebody through God's special grace, and then executed, with, his team, and that's what happened. So it's about what you are bringing, on board. It's not about the political party. And this is very important to note.
Governor Umahi, as we talk about your ambition to be Senate President now, When you moved from the PDP to the APC, many said that you have the ambition to be president. You went ahead to buy the form and throw your heart into the ring. Now you want to be Senate president,
yes,
even though you're a first timer. Is this why you moved to the APC?
I moved to the APC because my people wanted me to move to APC. Traditionally, the Southeast people, have always played, at the center. They have always belonged, to the party, at the center. And that's what, even when the PDP was in place, at the center, Southeast, traditionally, would be voting for PDP. So I moved to APC because I envisaged injustice that PDP was going to, do to Southeast. I requested them to zone the presidency, to Southeast, because that was what was agreed before. And then they were not forthcoming. And so as a protest, I moved. And I said, look, there's still a lot of qualified people like, His Excellency P2B, Senator Anyim Pius Anyim. I mentioned about 10 qualified people, and even Ike Kweremadu. I said, it's not about me. It's about the region. It's about fairness, equity, and justice. That we've been voting for PDP since, 1999. That it's time for PDP to compensate, Southeast. And, I made this position known to the working committee. I made it known to the governors of PDP. I made it known to, all the leaders of PDP. And I remember one time the working committee came to, discuss the matter with me. And I said to them that the second, condition for me to return back to PDP is apart from the fact that, I requested for them to zone the presidency to Southeast, but also that the leadership of National Working Committee of PDP should be retained. Nobody told me all these things, but I had that, gift of discernment of the spirit. I can discern the future to an extent. It's a gift from God. And so I knew that Southeast was going to be betrayed in PDP, and I knew also that the working committee, they were going to, kick them out of office. So I made this too, but the working committee didn't take me seriously. So I laughed at them. And so when it started playing out, it all played out. And those who castigated me, for leaving PDP from Southeast, they were the first victims, because they took me to newspapers and all kind of stuff. I said, look, Umahi is alone on his own, and the boy is traditionally PDP. And I laughed at them. And what has played out is exactly what, I had predicted. And I'm very happy that I moved. And of course, being in APC, I contested for president because I feel that by what God has done through me and my team in Ebonyi State, that I can fix Nigeria. I felt that, And all my life after graduation, I've been in business. I've been in the field. I've been constructing. I've been designing. And so I took that into governance because if you're not able to manage your own small business, you can't manage any public, business. So I felt that, and a lot of people, agree with me. And in the course of my campaigning to, be the candidate of APC, at the presidential, level, nobody said I was not qualified. And I was ready to do a debate with anybody who said you are not qualified, so that we can bring out the indices, and then I will know the areas. Of course, I cannot be 100%, qualified, but I think that I should be excellently qualified to hold the office of the president of this country. And so now, at the Senate level, yes, I feel that I've got a lot of experience. You see, when we talk about this ranking, with all due respect to, my senior colleagues, because in few weeks now, I'll be there. So I'm right to say my senior colleagues, you see, leadership in the first place is about, ability to carry people on. Leadership, is about, the understanding of the problems you are going to solve. It's not how long you have been in a system. It is how far you've, grasped with the problems of the country. And I'm not saying all the people, contesting are not qualified. I'm not saying so. I'm talking about myself. In every context, I only contest, with myself. That's the way I evaluate it, because every other person is eminently qualified. And so I feel that before I joined politics, I've done extremely very well, in businesses, employer of people, having, differentials of opinion, managing a lot of businesses, managing a lot of people's characters, and diverse challenges, of daily lives, I did all that. And then I came to, the party, PDP, and I became the party chairman, for 5 years, and I changed the narratives of, party administration. And the evidences are there. I was the only party chairman that built an edifice, where the national, PDP headquarters, didn't have any. So, and it's there, and it's the best in the country. It's still standing as the best in the country. And then I became a deputy governor, and I was extremely very loyal, to my boss. I remember that my boss promised me that I should run with him and that he would, hand over to me. It took me 1 month to say yes to him, to show you that, I wasn't cut out, to grab power by all means. My idea was for him to, win his re-election, and I would go back to Abuja and continue my business. But that's not what God wanted. So by God's own divine, position, so I became the deputy governor, and I followed him. Chief Elechi, you must give it to him. A man of wealth of experience, the former commissioner in the Odi Central State. So I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot of administration from him. I learned a lot of tactics from him. I learned leadership also from him. And so I became, the governor, and call it 8 years, And so I feel that in terms of the challenges I made as the chairman of Southeast Governors Forum for 8 years, in terms of the role I have played as the chairman of, NEC committee on, the farmers and the herdsmen crisis, in terms of the role I have played, even at the risk of my life, and even being branded, a saboteur by my brothers and sisters for the unity of the country. In terms of my wealth of experiences in administration, leadership administration, in terms of my wealth of experiences in project management and execution, I feel that I am eminently qualified. And let me say something, that God gives leaders, to nations, based on the peculiarities, of situation on ground. And I think that we have a situation on ground, there should be a kind of balancing in this country. We have to work together as leaders of the country. We must have a country before we start, struggling for one position or the other. So we have a situation. And where there is a situation, you set aside rules. You bend rules, you bend protocols, and there's precedence. My leader and my good friend, Senator Akpabio, was also one of the leaders of the House, as a first-timer, is there. Senator Akume, the Minister of Special Duties, contested, for the President of Senate as a first-timer. And of course, the Constitution of the country, is superior to rules. Is superior to rules.
But when you talk about considerations, are you talking about zonal considerations? Are you saying that you should go to the southeast?
By every permutation, and for the healing, and for cohesion, for inclusiveness, I strongly suggest that our party should zone it to southeast. I'm not saying it must be me.
Your Excellency, there are those who believe that religious balance should be considered as well. They feel, because if you check those who have thrown their hats in the ring, you have some northerners, some Muslims there as well. Do you believe that religious considerations should be made as well?
Well, this is, what we, the perception we suffered so much in the last election in Southeast. And that's why it appears as if, the church, somehow was against us as APC members. It was tough to defend, Muslim tickets, For me, I didn't look at it that way. I looked at the personality of Asiwaju. I looked at the personality of Kashim Shettima, Senator, His Excellency. So I looked at these two personalities, and I felt, that given the situation we are now, highly divided country, that God could use these two people, of course, plus me, as the Senate president, to bring about, healings, to bring about unity. And so it was tough campaigning. It was tough explaining to people. But of course, we won some heart of people. And the analysis I gave is that even the wife of the president is closer to the president, can influence a number of things. And the wife of Swaju is a pastor, more than, the vice president. It's about dialogue. It's about lobbying, It's about persuasion, to get things. So, but given that, and, we lost, we won, in this respect, the CJN is a Muslim, the president-elect, the vice president-elect. So I think to save us from shame, to save us from attack, to allow us to be able to return back to Southeast, because we made promises to them. So they should vote, zone distant to Southeast.
When you talk about the number of Muslims and the hierarchy of the leadership of this country and how much support you gave to the Muslim ticket, and now you say that for balance, that a Christian should be made Senate president. Some would ask why. Why is it now important to pay attention to religion, but not important to you at the time?
Yes, you see, the dynamics, are different. We had a situation in which the party came up with presidential, candidates, even though, and vice presidential candidates, even though they are Muslims, we looked at the merits and the demerits. And it was for every individual to evaluate. And when we evaluated, of course, one, as loyal party, people, we have to support our party. And secondly, we evaluated the capacity and capability of these people and weighed it against the issue of Muslim ticket, But our support for Muslim ticket did not remove the perception of a number of religious leaders that felt it has never happened. That the first thing that happened, God did not allow it to go through. And that was Abiola and the King Ibe, And so this one, so I said, no, God has a special, program for this country by bringing us Asiwaju. And that's what I was telling everybody. I didn't start saying it today. God has a purpose for allowing it to happen. But I know too well that these two are not a religious bigots.
Your argument could have another angle from the...
Let me finish. So what I'm trying to do...
Where I'm going with this is, there are those who believe, or who would want to insist now, that there should be no religious consideration. That if your party believes that Muslim ticket was not an issue with the president and vice president, there shouldn't be a problem with the Senate president.
It's not that our party did not believe that there was a problem, And I've told you that there was. It was difficult to market. But it didn't make us to depart from marketing it. So to hear that perception, you have to consider this for balancing. That's what you are saying, to carry everybody along. But if you continue to say that the opinion of those who kicked against this, will not matter, then there is a problem. And so we are saying, for the sake of inclusiveness, to carry everybody along, do this, for the Christians. I'm not a religious, in my, administration, in the executive level, I have some of, the Northerners in my administration, leadership position. So I've built bridges, I've demonstrated that, look, but when it comes to emphasizing religion, I say no. But you cannot undermine the perception of people. We have to heal that perception. We have to let everybody know that we are one united Nigeria, one people. And that this issue of religion was not emphasized before now. And so doing this, zoning this thing to Southeast, we have a lot of problems solved.
What sort of problems will be solved? I ask this because recall that the people of the Southeast were insisting on just the president. They didn't even want the VP position. So why do you think that it will be satisfied with the Senate president position now?
If you're looking for a whole cow and then they cut out the head and give to you, you have to hold that head, and be praying to God and be hoping that the whole cow may one day come, So if the middle belt, a lot of leaders in, Afenifere, a lot of leaders, even across the country, felt that presidency should come to Southeast, that Northeast and Southeast never had presidency. And so for inclusiveness, for the unity of the country, that's what they felt. And they felt very strongly, for the presidency after 8 years in the North, it should come to South. And it's coming to South, it should come to Southeast. So if they didn't get the number one, they didn't get number two, it is, just that they should get number three.
Is this your personal opinion, or do you think that this is a perception of the entire people or a great number of people of the Southeast?
Of course, I have to start with my own personal conviction. And of course, I hear people, beyond Southeast, a lot of people in the country also feel the same thing, A lot of Muslim brothers and leaders also feel that this thing should be zoned to, the Christian Southeast, So this is not just my personal opinion.
Do you think that this will have any impact on the agitations in the Southeast, especially the IPOB?
Well, you see, IPOB, at the beginning of this agitation, of course, when I became the chairman of Southeast Governors Forum, I got, permission from Mr. President to engage IPOB leaders. And they came, no security, they all came, their leaders came. Nnamdi Kanu was not there that time. And then we discussed, and they gave me all their points, the reasons why they are not happy to belong to Nigeria. And I looked at them. Some of them, have merits, in all fairness, But some is just an insinuation, and sentiments. So I went ahead and called for larger stakeholders meeting, the governors, senators, National Assembly members, speakers, leaders, traditional, So we all came and we set up a committee, to look at areas of marginalization and also to, engage the IPOB leaders. We did engage them. And we told them, can you please allow us to take over from where you are? We still love to remain in Nigeria, but it's equitable Nigeria, it's a fair Nigeria. So we did that. So Mr. President said, okay, you can meet with all the service chiefs and the secretary to government. That time, Babache was the SGF. So we agreed to meet. But IPOB didn't turn up. And that's where things began to, go very bad. So I believe strongly that the agitation for sovereign Biafra is no longer as strong, as it was. I can tell you this before the election, because they believe that, P2B was going to win. So now he didn't win, and of course he did not win, Then there is this, piece of the graveyard, So they're waiting to see how is it that we've been accommodated, in the nation Nigeria. And this is going to pose a big problem for us, because we stood in the gap for the unity of Nigeria. Together we are, the better for us. And so some people say, allow them to go. It's not as simple as that. A chain is as strong as the weakest link. You can't just say allow. If one, region pulls out, it will give impetus to another one to pull out, and so it will weaken the nation Nigeria. So I think we should manage, our differences, and we should be fair to all regions of Nigeria. And we should sit down and discuss. If we sit down as a people, and if we make some sacrifices, if we throw away the issue of self, we can build a stronger Nigeria. We can build a better nation. But if we continue like this, I can tell you that a day will come that, our children may want to chase us out of Nigeria. And I'm not praying for that day to come. But you have to work so that that day will not come. It's time to heal. It's time to make sacrifices. It's time to give what we have taken, from the nation. We've taken the future of the children. There's no doubt about that. So we have to give it back to the children. And that's why in my state, 95% of those elected are all young men. I vow that the person that will take over from me will not be older than me. And I have done that, So it's time to allow the youth to come to leadership positions.
So in simple terms, an Igbo Senate president would address the IPOB agitations.
Well, Southeast Senate President will give a lot of, healing of the perception that we are not wanted in the nation Nigeria.
What would you do differently as President of the Senate to address that agitation? And perhaps if you could expand that to the 10th Senate, which you would lead if you become president. And I ask that because your party worked for the very first time with its candidate in the 9th Senate. The 8th Senate, there were issues because there were, some call them renegades. But the 9th Senate, your party worked with its candidate. If your party goes the same way and you become Senate President, you know the perception of the 9th Senate. What would you do differently? And then also, how would you advise the presidents to handle the agitations in the Southeast?
This is what the next administration must do. You must engage all the regions. You must move around and sit down with all the leaders. And if I had become the president of this country, one thing I would be asking the region is, what do you want? The bandits, the youths, the women, the leaders, the agitators, what do you want? So we put all this thing down on papers, and sit down to look at what is possible, what is not possible. One thing I kept saying is that there's no region in this country that is not complaining. So it's not just about Southeast. There's marginalization one way or the other. No region has gotten it how it should be. But there's a lot of resources in this country that if we sit down. So one thing that I feel there is a disconnect, between the three arms of government. So the leadership should sit down. And the question is, what shall we do for this country? This is very important. And it is only when we sit down to discuss, we agree, we are going to get a loan. This and this and this are what we're going to do. So there must be a template before the three arms of government. And nobody is going to deviate from it. Mr. President, you are bound by this. Senate President, you are bound by this. Speaker, you are bound by this. The CGN, you are bound by this. So we have a focus. And then we take this position back to, the three arms of government. I say, look, we have decided to rescue this country. And these are what we are going to do. Nobody moves out of this. National Assembly, if you move out of it, we have to tell, the public. So we have to create the fourth, extent of, So, and that is even beyond the press. And that is the public. So any disagreement about this, we have to let the public to know.
As the fifth estate.
Yeah, the fifth estate, So, Terry, I forgot that you are in the fourth, it's because there is no agreement. There is no focus. But I tell you, to rebuild Nigeria, there must be sacrifices.
Very well. Now let's talk about your time in office now. It's almost time for you to say goodbye. I don't know how prepared you are, but you have just a little over a month to say goodbye to the people of Ebonyi State. But when you look back at your time in office, it's been 8 years. It's a long time, 2 terms. How well would you say you governed Ebonyi State in 8 years?
Well, there is no man who wants to leave office that doesn't evaluate himself, But one thing I did from the very day I entered office is, what are those things that, if I leave office and I fail to do it, that I'll have regret. The worst thing is for a leader to have regrets. But there is nothing you can do not to have regrets. So let me start with what regrets, I would have when I leave office. And the regret would be that, I wanted to fix a rail that should run from, Abakaliki, capital city, to the university, and to the famous university, David Umahi, Medical University. And I wanted to have a rail to connect the 13 local government headquarters, and then a rail from here to connect to the federal government rail, Port Harcourt, Meduguri. This is the regret I would have. Another regret I will have is that I wanted to build a bridge, between Afibo and Cross River, and create a road to increase commerce between Cross River and Ebonyi State. The same thing with Oferekbe and Cross River. So these were the two major things, I will have regret about. The rest is for God to judge and for man to judge. So I left the office of the governor the very day I entered it. And this is what leaders should try to do. The moment you enter, even as a legislator, you must know that one day you have to leave the office. And nobody should tell me that the people that, know about the constitution, of Nigeria, about legislative matters, legislative matters is about the constitution of Nigeria. So people say, oh, the money we spent in training leaders, training a National Assembly member or legislator should be, so does it mean that they must continue, over and over and over? I think 2-3 tenures should be enough because the young must grow. So the same thing for the executive. When you enter, you know that a day will come, even as a commissioner or any other appointee, where you will be asked to wait. And everyone is running the destiny of his or her life. We must know that. So in Ebonyi State, I'm very happy that when I came with the five-fold, covenant with God. God gave it to me. When I won election, I went to, a quiet place to listen to God. And God gave me those five-fold, covenants. Among which is to make Abakaliki the most beautiful capital city in this country. I don't know where else is more beautiful than Abakaliki. I also vowed to God to take care of the oppressed. I vowed to God to stand with the widows. I have paid some selected widows, monthly stipends. I've empowered them. I've built houses for some of them. Over the years, I promise infrastructure. I also promise to rule with the fear of God. And when you look at what has taken place in Ebonyi State, you can find out that it is all about the fear of God. Because the faith I confess and the Bible I read say that by the fear of God men depart from evil. There is no man that can be 100% sent in the service of his people. But the most important thing, and that's the prayer I always make to God, if I put myself or my family ahead of, the state or her people, don't answer my prayers. So it's by fear of God that men depart from evil. It's by fear of God. When you want to take that decision, you know that you are faced with God. And I came to office in a very unusual manner, It was God's own very strong, hand that brought me and my team to office. So we have nothing to boast about other than God, that strong hand that brought us. And each time there is a mind to misbehave, God will always tell me what he told David in the Bible. He said, remember, I took you from following sheep. And so when every leader knows that God took him or her from following sheep, from the lowest, background, and they brought you to where you are, you have to have the fear of God. Because there is a song that says power and might belongs to God. So we have done what God asked us to come and do. And we are very, very excited about it. It was Apostle Paul at the end of his journey that says, I've run the race. I've finished my course. It's left unto me, and God Almighty to give me a crown of righteousness, which he promised to all those, who believe. So I'm very excited leaving office. There is none of the project that we had any architect to design for us. There is none of them we invited any consultant to design. While sleeping, God gave me revelation. And in the morning, I begin to sketch it. And I'll give it to draft people. And that's how all these projects came to be. I enter the mall, I can't describe it.
I know you're an engineer, but are you an architect as well?
Well, I'm very experienced.
Anyone listening to you would question the integrity of this project if professionals didn't.
No, the integrity of the project, don't forget, the architect, can make things beautiful, okay? But it's my gift, It's just like you're a dancer. It's a gift from God. But the integrity of the project is from the engineer. It's the engineer that designs whether a structure will stand or not. The architect is to put it together. But if the engineer doesn't stamp that current distance, and don't forget that I'm a fellow of Nigeria Society of Engineers, and I'm also a fellow of technologists, in engineering.
Your Excellency, let me read out a headline to you. It says, despite over 41 billion naira unpaid pensions, Umahi builds 1.2 billion naira governor's lodge, and another one goes on to question the importance of an airport in Ebonyi State. How do you respond to that?
Well, when Christ appeared before Pontius Pilate, and they laid a lot of accusation against him, he didn't speak anything. So the Pontius Pilate asked him, you have nothing to say about this. So my position is that when you lay false accusation against me, it's like putting, nothing on something or something on nothing. So it doesn't go to anywhere.
Which one is the false accusation? The pensions?
The pensions.
You don't owe pension?
As at the last time we checked, of course, we were duped of pension for over 400 million. A lot of duplications. For 7 years, I fought, this gratuity and pension. There were a lot of duplications, and so we are on that. So at the end of the day,
you suspended that payment sometime in July last year.
Yeah, because of that,
and it has not resumed till.
Well, we have concluded, because at the end of the day, it has to be the deputy governor, that was given the assignment to do it. So they came up with about 485 million. That's the pension. And don't forget that we didn't have pension paid, as it should be from the beginning of this state. The same thing with gratuity. So I came, everything was laid on me, And then now for gratuity, it was even worse, because, a lot of, duplication again. And I said since I came on board, salary has been on the increase. I have not employed, pension has been on the increase, Why is it that salary is not dropping? Because if pension is increasing and gratuity is increasing, salary should be dropping. Civil servants are wonderful people. I fought this team for 7 years. I'm going to leave a strong note to my, successor about this. But as of today, what is left of gratuity is 4 billion. I intend to reduce this before I leave office. I intend to pay off the pension before I leave office. At the local government level, there is no pension that is owed. So I don't know where the person got 41 billion. And he said I built the Ebonyi Lodge with 1.2 billion. I wish I could build it with more. I wish I could make it more beautiful, because I need, very, extraordinary projects, that will benefit the people, and to let those who don't feel that, we want anything to know that we've come of age. So I have no regret building that lodge.
For the people?
For the people.
How is it for the people?
How is it for the people?
Yes.
Teddy, you're wearing a very beautiful, suit, If you were wearing rags, would anybody want to do business with you? You see, life is about perception. If you wear a beautiful suit the way you wear a beautiful suit and you go to negotiate for a job, I'm sure they will take you first, more than that person that's coming with slippers. So the moment the interviewer sees you and sees how you dress, he says, well, think this guy is this thing. So it's perception.
So it's packaging.
Well, that's what the bad guys call it packaging. But for me, it's not packaging.
But then this packaging that we talk about, and how important it is for the state to, perceive or to be perceived well. How impactful do you think it's been on your people? With regards to the poverty level, you would leave this office in less than 2 months. Can you say confidently that the people you met in 2015 are somewhat richer or more comfortable now?
I can say that God is so merciful to us. I can say it's a miracle. When people talk about poverty, I just laugh, because there is no country of the world you don't have people that are poor. But when you use it as a yardstick and the basis of your discussion, it's like darkening castle without knowledge. Poverty. How do you cure poverty? You don't just cure poverty by sharing money. Look at what we have done to, tackle the issue of poverty. And of course, empowerment is cure to poverty. But you have to decide, how do you empower your people? Is it by just sharing money to them? Of course, we've shared money. We've shared money more than any other government in this state. But what else did we do differently? 99% of these jobs are done by direct labor. And the direct labor are done by the ministries. And, when some people say that, governor's brothers, nobody has been able to bring out one job that is being done by any of the governor's brothers. And so what is the impact of this direct labor? Who are the people doing it? Meaning that all the money that come from, the local government, that the money of the state circulate within the state There is no capital flight. And that is my bet about how much we've empowered the people. Terry, go around Ebonyi State. Go and look at Camp David Estate. It was not there in existence. I created brand new city. I created, roads. Without roads, you cannot improve, the GDP, of the people. How do they bring out their produce? I'm just completing 199 kilometers of ring road. 53 done by me. About the rest done by, facility from the African Development Bank. And it's going through 8 local government of Ebonyi State. And so, what are we talking about? I built the best international market you can get anywhere. I built the mini Dubai Mall, you can get anywhere. I built the David Umahi University, and we have, about 1,500 people, Ebonyans and non-Ebonyans employed. And this means a lot of IGR to the state. Now, you come and talk about the importance of airport to Ebonyi people. One, this airport is the most beautiful. This airport is the largest. You can't get any other airport that has this size of, the runway, And it's the first airport to be built on concrete. I've asked, why is it that we are not building airports on concrete? They say, the cost. But I won't reveal the cost. But if I can do it, it means that other states that are much richer than me can also do it because the durability is there. Then you go and see the quality of the airport. Because when I go through the airports outside this country, I say, come, our leaders that first ran this race and then they moved out of the country and came back, what did they come back with? I have the ESCO chamber. You must see that ESCO chamber before you leave. Because when President Buhari took me to United Nations, he was busy rendering his address. I was busy copying the United Nations structure. And that's what we have in Ebonyi State. And so we have done a lot of strategic infrastructure. We have built future for the state.
But you haven't really talked about the importance of the airport.
The airport is that we are engaging in greenhouses now. We are engaging in, rice processed, and approved by NAFDAC and is exportable. We are engaging in mushroom production. The mushroom we are producing now is the edible one. We are now extending to producing mushroom that are exportable for medical uses, So the importance of the airport is to also increase our IGR and export our produce. And also, we have the Abia people that are closer to us, we have the Enugu people that are closer to us, we have the Benue people, we have the Cross River people. So this airport is going to be one of the busiest airports. So it's going to increase our IGR. It's investment, It is not packaging. It is for economic investment.
Very well. Then as we round off this conversation, let's touch quickly on education. You're being commended for dropping the number of out-of-school children from, I think, 21% in 2016 to, 3.5% now. While that is commendable, your state still records the lowest number of enrollments in JAMB. And it raises the question, are the people of Ebonyi, the children of Ebonyi State, not interested in tertiary education? Did you pay attention to that as well?
I don't know where you got the statistics because even in the medical line, we consistently 3 times, and the local government came first. I
mean the enrollment.
It's enrollment. That's what I'm saying.
The statistics is from JAMB itself.
That's what I'm saying. That the enrollment, the medical, faculty for one, that the Ebonyi State consistently came, first, for 3 years, and so I wouldn't talk about the statistics that, I do not have knowledge of.
So you're more concerned about the outcome, the outcome than the number of people enrolled?
No, it's still the in, because it is, what you put in that, you bring out. But I can tell you that we have a lot of people that are being enrolled, and we have a lot of higher institutions. And of course, we're also going to build 2 more institutions, the ICT, University and the University of Aeronautical Engineering. We have gotten approval for these 2. That's my successor is going to build, them. So we have done quite a lot in terms of giving boost to our people. Because don't forget that it is education that has enabled us to compete and to do what we have done. So we are looking at education, after health and security as the next, target in our commitment, and project for the people. So I cannot speak on the distance, but I can tell you that in the past, our people were more interested in trade. No longer the same now. All the children are in school. And the out-of-school children you're talking about, we have, I'm sure that it's going to be less than 1% now. Because even in the markets, because you have to work on the perception of the people. You want to trade, no problems. Go ahead trading. But we established a school, in all our markets. We have very wonderful school in the international, market. And the federal government had just, approved ICT, hub in that market. So we are making sure that even if you were born with the spirit of trade, you also have to acquire education. And that is what we are doing.
Before we go now, let's talk about the security in Ebonyi State. It appears to be relatively safe now without the Ebubeagwu outfit. I don't know what your perception is of that. But what's the status of the Ebubeagwu outfit? You had said it would be on hold for now because of the court judgment, and you had appealed the judgment as well. Well,
the moment you appeal a judgment, then a stay of execution is granted, then it will be. So I wouldn't know the level, whether the appeal court has granted a stay of execution, But we have two other, security outfits approved by the bill of the House of Assembly, and one of them is, Ebonyi State Neighborhood Watch. And then the other one is Ebonyi State, Security, Corps, Now, the Ebonyi State Security Corps is, patterned after the Amoteku law. So everything there is there with little modification to suit our situation here. That of the neighborhood watch is fashioned after Anambra State law. I believe in copying. You copy and adapt, So these two are still doing the same job. And there was no insecurity before. It's political jobbers. They were making so noise because they thought we were going to use this outfit during the election. We don't need to. If you're black and you're proud, why must you say you have the integrity of being black? You cannot be to a chest and say I'm black and proud. We know we're going to win elections, no matter the antics. So we didn't engage them. We announced loudly and proudly that the local vigilante will not engage in our elections. And they did not engage. But work is still going on. We are still arresting criminals. The state is still very safe. And those jobbers, they have shut up their mouth. They are no longer talking. Nothing has changed in the state.
It's almost time for you to say goodbye now. What's your final word to the people? Yes, you would have your time to give your speech to your people before you leave. But what would you say to them and perhaps the incoming government?
Somebody made a joke to me, say, look, you are still working, you're still working. And, it's shocking a lot of people that even some places that didn't vote for us, I still have a mega project I'm trying to tidy up, that a day after the election, I still rush to those sites to supervise, And so what does it tell you? It tells you that I came by the finger of God. It tells you that I have a program from God. It tells you I have love for the people. It tells you that I have passion for the people. And that's what I will be going out with. And that's what I'll be telling our people. So somebody said, are you sure the governor will know 29th, that he will not be on site on that 29th? So we have to keep a timetable for him so that he'll be able to come out of sight, But the truth is that I'm about testing my airport, for the flight to come and land. And I will give free, flight tickets to anybody that is going to use that airport till I leave.
Your Excellency, Governor David Umahi, thank you very much for your time on Political Paradigm.
Thank you.
Well, that's Political Paradigm. Thank you very much for your time. Remember, you can catch this episode all over again. Simply go to YouTube and search Political Paradigm or go to channelstv.com. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.